Yes, the best of luck. Now, have you heard of the condition Vasa previa? It's relatively unknown, but kills 300 babies a year, a shocking statistic. But even more shockingly, a pregnancy ultrasound could detect it and potentially save the lives of those newborns.
Well, Sharon and Nick Partridge had a perfectly healthy, full-term pregnancy, but sadly they lost their daughter Lauren at birth because they weren't screened for the condition. Well, now they are dedicating their time to campaigning to make these scans standard prenatal procedure, and they join us now with Dr. Chris. Welcome, all of you. Now, you got married, very happily married. You waited 5 years because you were just trying to have a baby, and then after 5 years, hooray, pregnant, wonderful. And off you go for the first scan, which happens at about 12, 13 weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And at that point, they did say to you, it looks like there's a low-lying placenta.
That's correct. Yeah.
But no other red flags waved at all.
No, they said that's quite normal. It is quite a common condition, but normally the low-lying placenta quite often recedes back up to a higher position in most women.
Yep. And you were perfectly healthy, had a good pregnancy, looked after yourself, didn't do anything stupid. You're both highly motivated to have this baby. You'd do anything if anybody said to you, look out, we've got to do this or do that. You'd be right on it. So then you have the regular anomaly scan at 20 weeks.
That's right.
Again, low-lying placenta.
Yes.
Anything else said at that stage?
No, nothing else said at that point in time. Just reiterated the fact that low-lying placenta is fairly common. We hope that it will move during the pregnancy, but we will be called in for further scans later on in the pregnancy.
No risks
to monitor
mentioned
it.
at that stage?
No risks mentioned at that stage, and I did ask, because that's the kind of person I am. I asked, well, what does that mean? What are the risk factors? What could it lead to? And they said, listen, it's perfectly fine, it's perfectly normal. We will check later on in the pregnancy to see just where the placenta is, and if it's far enough away from the opening where the baby comes out, then will be a normal birth. If it's covering the opening, then we might have to look at a caesarean section. So that was all explained to us.
Yep, so you still feel quite confident,
felt very
everything's
comfortable.
fine, we're all being monitored. Then the later scan came because they're keeping an eye on you, 37 weeks. And I think the midwife at that point went, you might definitely have to have a C-section.
Yeah, the midwife thought that it was close enough to, there's normal practice in that hospital, but you'd have to have a C-section. But she was kind of overruled by the senior house officer, who said, no, there's no protocol in this hospital that says that that's the case, or there's no guidelines in the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists guidelines that says that it's too close, that we'd have to do a caesarean, so we're going to go for a normal birth.
And this is where the lack of information then starts to really get dangerous, and none of you knew the dangers.
That's right.
So the baby's due Christmas Day.
It was due Christmas Day, yes, 2004.
Getting all excited, and then, as babies are, a little bit late, 4 days late, so 30th of December, you go into hospital because they've said come in by the 30th if you don't have the baby. And you were settled in the bed, and you go home, Nick, and suddenly your waters break.
Yes, that's right.
And this is, unfortunately, when tragedy just unfolds.
That's right, yes. We were taken in, we'd been in on the 30th. They just sort of monitored our current situation, and they'd done what they call a membrane sweep at that time to bring on labour. Later that evening, we'd gone back into hospital because I'd had some spotting. They connected us up to the heart monitor for about an hour. Everything was fine. Like you say, Nick then was sent home. Sharon just popped into bed and see how we get on through the night. Labour started, and I have got another son as well. He's 13 years old, and my history is that my labour comes on quite quickly and moves quite fast. Well, labour started. We went through the early stages of labour, and then quite severe labour pains came on. Nick was called at that time, and then the registrar who was on duty at that point came to see me and do the examination, and it was at that point they noticed that there was some blood being lost.
Much more blood than would normally be expected.
Yes, more blood than would be expected.
And they don't really understand, well, they didn't check to see whose blood it was.
Right, but this is fresh blood.
Fresh blood.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
At that point, they said they would rush me down to delivery immediately because they felt that things were moving very, very quickly and we needed to do something about it. And I was taken straight into the delivery suite. The team were on hand, connected up to the heart monitor again. At that
The
point,
baby okay?
baby was absolutely fine, the heartbeat was regular, and I felt Lauren moving around still, you know, obviously thinking to myself at that time, she's coming, she's on her way, and as it was the 31st of December is also Nick's birthday, so we'd sort of rolled over by that time into the 31st of December, and it was, you know, what else would you wish for? It's been absolutely fantastic. And then all of a sudden there was just sort of chaos erupted within the delivery suite, because I had a very, very strong contraction, and the baby's heartbeat just deteriorated pretty much immediately. And there was a lot of blood. And,
a very fast delivery.
A very fast delivery.
I think there's 4 pushes at 7 minutes or something.
That's right, yes.
Out came Lauren, and the midwife said, "Oh, here's your little daughter."
Yes.
And you hoped that she'd be crying, but she was quite limp.
Yes, she was, yeah.
And then they rushed to look after her, and the blood was presumably from her, not from you.
The blood was from her. It now transpires, but at the time, the delivery suite team were completely, you know, bemused as to why they couldn't seem to revive her, because they did all their normal tests. But as you know, babies can survive huge trauma during birth. It's quite a traumatic thing. But what they can't survive is having no blood when they come out into the open air, because that's what kick-starts all their organs. But her blood level, or the hemoglobin as they call it, had dropped to, you know, less than 20%. So, you know, babies can survive all sorts of things, but lack of blood is what they can't survive without.
And they couldn't transfuse because of the tiny blood vessels.
They could have transfused potentially, but it's very difficult in a newborn baby. It's also very difficult to do if you're not ready to do it, because if it's prenatally diagnosed. If it's prenatally diagnosed and you know there's something probably going to go wrong at a birth, they often have a paediatrician on hand with all the necessary blood supplies. They know what Sharon's blood would be that they've got from the blood bank, and they'd be ready to go. But so it was up to 28 minutes before they actually started to be able to revive Lauren, and she'd been quite a long time then without properly breathing properly. And I just started to know at that point, even from just watching medical programs and medical sitcoms, that's just too long.
Yeah.
It's just too long.
Well, you say, I mean, you're not blaming the hospital. I mean, you're saying that it's an unnecessary loss. It's a lack of awareness and a lack of knowledge. And if I could ask Chris, what had happened?
Well, you know, you've got baby inside the womb, and from the baby goes the umbilical cord to the placenta, and the baby derives all its nutrition from the mother through the placenta and umbilical cord. A low-lying placenta, as Nick said, is often taken up in pregnancy, so there's no problem. But during birth, Vasa previa is the umbilical cord, the vessels, prolapse down, and the baby's head during delivery compresses the blood vessels, cutting off its own blood supply, so the brain isn't getting blood supply. Those vessels can tear and shear, and of course that's what causes the huge blood loss. So, I mean, basically, I mean, the baby's losing blood, it's bleeding to death. Now, you know, they feel, you know, Sharon and Nick feel very strongly about what could be done. Tell us, Nick. Just very quickly.
Well, effectively, as part of the 20-week anomaly scan, there's certain things they could do for particularly high-risk factor women, which are people with low-lying placentas and people who've had IVF babies. But also, just generally for women, they could just check to see how the umbilical cord is embedded. They already check to see how the umbilical cord is attached to the baby. But what they don't do is check to see how the umbilical cord is attached to the placenta. And depending on how it's attached to the placenta, depends on whether it's attached like a hose pipe or it's attached like a whole load of different cables. If it's attached like that, if it's attached like a load of cables, effectively, and they're lying over the opening to where the baby comes out, and the baby breaks through one of those veins that's being born, it's a 95% death for the baby. It's known as a time bomb that goes off at birth.
And yet 97% of those babies could be saved
Definitely.
if it's instantly recognised and a C-section booked.
You have had some success with there will be a review of the guidelines, right?
Yeah, we've been campaigning and lobbying lots of the medical bodies, and we got rebuffed by quite a few of them in the early days, but we kept on with the RCOG, because with all the types of medical bodies that are out there, the RCOG is the one that defines the protocol.
the
Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists.
Yeah.
They define the standard, and not just only the standard for the UK, but almost the standard for the world that looks at what our Royal College does. And they've written back to us now, and have also issued a public statement to say they're going to look at putting this into place, some guidelines on vasoprofia, and actually mentioning it, which was never mentioned before, in their Green Top Guideline 27 in October 2008, which is a great first step.
It is, and midwives and everybody will be, radiographers will all be aware. Well, Lauren's life has not been lost in vain. This will carry on for her, and you do have a gorgeous new baby, Madison.
We do.
And congratulations.
Thank
you very much.
Congratulations.
Can I just say there's now a help group and a website set up, which is on your...
Yes,
we're just
absolutely,
just
no
about to say
problem.
that, so we'll absolutely
problem.
make sure that everybody knows where to look. And thank you, both.
Yes.
Thank you for
very
coming in
much.
today.
And
Thank
new
you, Chris.
mums, don't panic. Just
No,
just
it's
keep
nothing-
checking
it's
and
just
ask for
awareness.
information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
For details about the condition we've just been talking about, have a look at our website. As we were just saying, it's itv.com/thismorning, and then we'll point you in the right direction.
Now, just to